How's it going, guys? I'm Matt Catizone. I am the partner and CMO at St. Agrestis. Our most famous product is the non-alcoholic phony Negroni.
I'm Kate MacCabe. I'm the founder of Flywheel Strategy, and we provide fractional and advisory support to DTC companies that are growing and scaling.
I'm Michal. I'm the CRM director at The Sack. The Sack is a handbag company. We've been around for 36 years, so I do their email, SMS, loyalty, and retention.
Amazing. And Michelle, staying with you. We mentioned AI on the last panel I was on, so why not start where we left off? What role does AI play in your email and SMS strategy today?
I have a great answer for this one. So I actually didn't know that our SMS vendor, Postscript, is one of the sponsors for the event. They recently launched a tool called Shopper, which is backed by ChatGPT. And it's basically a ChatGPT conversation of an agent with my customer on SMS. And so we launched it as a demo about 2 months ago. And I was a little bit skeptical because there was a lot of education that was going into the agent, kind of like teaching them about the brand and making sure that they represent the brand. And I was so delighted to see the intentional conversations that the shopper was having with my customer. The customer would tell, like, I'm looking for a gift from my mom. I'm going to the Christmas markets in Europe. I need a bag for this and for that. And, oh, I have, sending a picture, I have this bag of the Sack from the 90s and it's discontinued. What's the best match? And he would like have intentional conversations. So that's the most innovative thing in AI that we do right now.
Amazing. Love the Postscript shout out as well. Matt, as a beverage brand entering retail at scale, how are you using email to keep the D2C channel strong and engaged?
It's a great question. I'd say really unique offerings more than anything else. So our best tool in our toolbox is limited release products. So even as we scale our phony Negroni and other core SKUs into places like Target and Costco, we own manufacturing, so we can just put a new product out in the world and kind of ensure that you can drive traffic back to the website. But I think other tools like loyalty, right? There's reasons for people to come back. They're compelled. Subscriptions. There's obviously a certain consumer that appreciates just an auto ship and not having to think about that. So, I don't believe Target does anything like that. So that's an advantage. We also offer discounts on things like that. So those are just a couple different ways that we can ensure people have to come back to still purchase on the website.
Amazing. And Andriy, so what do you wish more brands understood about retention before they come to you?
Great question, Molly. So actually, there's two things that we see. What we're trying to educate brands is to distribute their resources, money, people, time, a little bit more, because we see that brands are having 95 to 98% resources dedicated to acquisition. And as a business owner, fully understand this, fully support. But if you want to grow sustainable business, which will last for years, you need to do the distribution a little bit. You didn't have to do 50-50, but maybe like do 90% to acquisition and 10% to retention. So this is number one. And number two, diversify your retention channels. Everybody talks about email marketing, and I mean, we are email marketing agency and fully support, but there's other channels. Justin in the last talks spoke about direct mail. It's not that, like right now it's more relevant than it used to be because the mailboxes are empty, at least my physical mailbox is, there's no brands. There's only few big brands who like sending either catalogs or small postcards. So also WhatsApp, the new RCS marketing, competitive to or complementary to SMS marketing. So we need to diversify.
It's also a lot cheaper to bring a customer back versus to acquire them.
Of course.
You've just gave me a great segue. Kate, how should D2C brands think about organizing teams around retention versus acquisition?
Yeah, this is a great question because I think it maps very closely to what you're seeing, which is very siloed teams where you have your marketing and acquisition team, and then oftentimes organizationally that rolls up to a CMO, and then you have your retention team. And what happens is those teams are not speaking. and you can feel it in the content and the flows and the cadences of the messages going out. So what we really recommend, and a lot of the work that we do, is we'll help companies look at their org structure. And there's a structure called a matrixed organization where you can still have dedicated specialization for retention, for growth marketing, but let's create ways and structures so that those team members can collaborate through planning moments on a quarterly and monthly basis, and really step outside the structure of the org to really put yourself and your team in the experience of the user. And we find that unlocks so much value. The team then goes back to their day-to-day and their weekly stand-ups with their function, but they now know where to reach out and collaborate across growth.
And keeping with the operational theme, Michelle, how do you balance personalization at scale with the need for operational efficiency?
I really like to reuse and recycle templates. I like to think of every email template that my creative director puts out as like a little piece of art, and it shouldn't be just seen once. So today, actually, we launched our fall collection, and I've just saved it as a template. And now anyone that browses something from the fall collection will get that as a follow-up on the email. And you do that times 100, and then you have a really great program that targets the right person with the right message at the right time.
Great. Matt, back to you. What have you learned about list segmentation that directly impacted performance?
I've learned that you need to segment lists. I mean,
That's good stuff.
Above all, right? I think, there's like the allure of sending one email to every person in your database, but it's just like it's a terrible approach, honestly. I mean, for us, like, we make non-alcoholic spirits. That's really our bread and butter, but we started as an alcohol distillery, and we still do produce and ship alcohol, admittedly to like 5 states because it's the worst regulated archaic industry of all time. But obviously, sending an email that's sort of alc related to somebody who consumes and buys non-alc from us is like a very dangerous game. You can lose a customer and lose some reputation along the way. So that's an obvious one. But at the same time, like, every customer is a little bit different. Talking retention tools like loyalty or memberships, they probably deserve a different type of email than your one-time purchaser who hasn't purchased for 6 months versus the person who's enrolled or signed up for your mailing list for the first time but hasn't purchased in a year. So I think every customer, I mean, there's obviously like segments, but you should segment because you should treat your bottom funnel consumer that's in the database different than the top funnel consumer.
I know we all laughed when you said about segmenting lists, about list segmentation. Gosh, I can't speak today. But I think people do forget you actually need to do that part. Like, if you have a list, you've got to do something with it. Andriy, so are there any common patterns or mistakes you see across DTC brands struggling to grow their lifetime value?
Struggling. So it's working? Yeah. So we see that, going back to what previously said, brands focusing on the transaction, and we all want that first transaction or second transaction, but we don't need to forget about customer, the other person is on the other end, and our reputation. And as we know, or you might know, that newsletter industry is booming. But when you sign up for brand's newsletter, if you compare it to newsletter like delivers a lot of value. If you bought a product, you just bombarded with a bunch of other promotional material, 20% off, 50% off. So we see that brands focusing on transaction and not delivering the value. Like, yes, we want that first purchase, second purchase, but also in parallel, we need to to provide them some kind of value through emails and other retention channels.
Yeah, definitely. They need to get something out of it to make that second purchase. Kate, what's the most important infrastructure a brand needs in place to make data-driven decisions around retention?
This is a great question because we see this with pretty much every brand we work with. They want to be data-driven and they just don't know where to start. And a lot of that comes from every single platform, whether it's Shopify or Klaviyo or Meta. Every platform is giving you data, but they're all giving it from their point of view. And that creates what we see, just a bunch of swirl where you're spending a lot of time just bouncing between platforms and not having any confidence in which direction to follow. So our number one tip is we start out, it's actually not an infrastructure tool. It's you already have the infrastructure there, and we go through a data dictionary definition of let's list out, and typically for e-commerce businesses, it's about the same 25 to 30 metrics that you care about, and doing some linking on what are your primary KPIs, what are the secondary KPIs that support those, and then deciding and really committing to what is the source of truth that we want to use. So Google might be your source of truth for sessions, Shopify might be your source of truth for orders, Klaviyo might be your source of truth, or PostScript might be your source of truth for SMS delivery. And then the infrastructure piece comes in of building a dashboard that isn't any of those platforms, which for startups might seem like a high lift, but there are very low cost ways to build a dashboard that is bringing together the data out of those systems, and then you can finally leave behind the swirling and bouncing between systems and get to the data action that you want.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be expensive, does it?
Yes, yeah, there are definitely affordable and incremental ways you can get there.
Michelle, so you've moved from batch and blast to personalized journeys. What was the first big unlock that showed it was working?
So the stack has been around for a very long time, but for the first 30 or so years, we were a B2B company. So we were selling to other wholesalers, Macy's, Dillard's, etc. And then COVID happened, and we kind of decided to shift our focus. And nowadays, DTC is 50% of our business. And so when we first launched email, when we first launched SMS, the mentality was like, okay, every email makes money. Let's send more. More equals more. Another email is more revenue in the bottom line. And we had to start acquiring customer in a way that we haven't before, even though we kind of had a loyal customer from the wholesale side. And so from my point of view, there was a lot of education to my team to show them that actually you have to respect the customer's mailbox. Sending less, more intentional campaigns are the way to go. When you think about email marketing, and the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, this person, this brand that is like spamming my mailbox, like that's not good CRM practice. And it is hard to set up a use case for all the different personalized metrics with your brand. At the Stack specifically, we have a lot of personalized templates and personalized journeys based on intent, based on color preference, and then based on lifetime value. And I think through time and kind of like showing that the proof is in the pudding, we got there. Batch and blast can only take you so far, and marketing campaigns that you send just to like just about everyone, like it has space in the program, but it shouldn't be the thing that you rely on long term.
I'm so gonna steal the respect people's mailboxes, by the way. That's great. Matt, what's the hardest part of balancing brand and conversion in your retention marketing strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with what we just talked about, which is the volume of emails just in general, right? So I think like for us, email marketing as a performance and like revenue drivers is very important, but recognizing that you can't blast people every day or twice a day is kind of critically important to ensuring that channel stays high performing. So I think it's a little bit intuitive, but it's determining what email that's not necessarily revenue driving makes sense, and what can you send to what clusters of customers that's gonna not get opted out on, right? The worst thing you can do is send something about your Substack and lose a customer that now I can't communicate that limited release next week, So I think it's a little bit of finesse. Like I feel like it's somewhat intangible for us at least, that you can't know. So it's definitely important, but right now I'd rather hold back a sort of branding email or something that promotes something less revenue driving if I know I have a bigger moment coming. Like we'll actually halt an email and segment it out if we need to, so that we're not over communicating and losing folks because of that.
I think it goes back to what you were saying about value as well. Like as long as they're getting the value out of it, I think that's what they care about
For
most.
sure. And going back to that too, like when you lose a bid on like a Google campaign, you don't really see that. You get reports on when you get opt-outs from an email, and it sucks. So the less you can do that, the better.
Andriy, how do you help clients bridge the gap between strong creative and performance-driven email and SMS?
I mean, with SMS, with 170 character, you cannot be as creative. There's no graphics you can send. But with emails, we always focusing on the first few seconds to hook the person, because you have up to maximum 3 seconds to convince the person to scroll down. So we don't have any call to action, no menu on the top of the email. The goal is to have very clear for the motion to go down and read what we're trying to tell them to do with clear call to action, one call to action. So typically we do not sell any products or anything in the email, but we sell them to take action to do what we want them to do, to either to go to the website or do some other action. So hook, personalize content, and personalize, I'm not saying just like hi, first name, but personalize either with an image relevant to them or some other content, and clear call to action, and ideally one call to action per email.
Yeah, definitely leveraging that touch point is super important. Kate, what's one piece of advice you give often when it comes to building a scalable retention model?
That's a great question. For scalable retention, it really is about, we find like it helps if the brands and the companies sort of zoom out and look at the whole forest, or like think of it like a landscape. You're landscaping your yard. A lot of times people will look at retention, like what message am I going to send out today? What I need to get, I haven't sent an SMS campaign in a week. What am I going to say? And so they're looking at it like flower by flower, tree by tree, and really the customer or your audience is getting quite a disparate message from you. And I loved in the last session the thought on like PR being about like owning your narrative and knowing, what are you bringing to market. So what we find is doing some content strategy work up front. Plan your calendar, and don't just plan it by these are the days that I'm going to be sending messages, but what of these messages are going to be more brand centric versus more conversion centric, and within them just high level topics of this email is going to talk about my mission and my new collection and a review, where my next email is going to be talking about our bestseller and a press hit, and that really makes sure you're not being too redundant and you're giving diversity and thought to your audience to keep them engaged.
Great. I'm going to finish off by playing a quick game, so sorry to put everyone on the spot. Can you just we'll go down this way. I want the first thing that comes to your mind if I said the metric you care about more than open rate.
In email, click rate.
Okay.
The conversion rate on email.
My favorite metric is revenue per delivered.
Oh. You've got the hardest one.
Yeah,
we can share it.
Yeah, it's my favorite metric because it's almost like my efficiency score. Because if I was really intentional about the segmentation and I really was intentional about the messaging and I sent it to the right person, then my revenue % will be higher.
Okay, Michelle, we'll start your end now, so I feel like you got the bad end of that. One thing you'd stop doing today if you could?
Invest in an identity resolution. It's something that we've implemented this year and we've seen huge success with it. If you don't have an identity resolution, you're definitely behind. What I mean by that is when you pay so much money to Meta and Google and bringing people onto your site, and then you show them the pop-up, and the pop-up says, give us your email, give us your SMS number, and we will give you an offer. And I don't know about you guys, but like the best that I've seen performance with pop-up is about 10% conversion of people that will give me the email and SMS, which means that 90% of them either dismiss it or they exit out of it or they don't complete it. And so we've partnered with, we use Unveiled.ai. They will identify the customer based on their cookies with the database that they have and will match the email to that customer. And then based on what they did on the site, whether they browsed, added to cart, or just a plain welcome. We send them an email, and it converts really, really well. And I will say too that for us, we have a pretty high engagement criteria. So only if they clicked 3 times and spent at least 90 seconds on the site, then I will send them that identity resolution. And ours also integrates with SMS. SMS you're not allowed to send to people who didn't explicitly consented, but a lot of times because people browse on unidentifiable devices because they're on a new browser or they're on a different device, then you do have their number, but you can't identify them. So that's like really important.
Okay.
The one thing I recommend that everyone starts doing is both visualize and document your tech stack every 6 months in your user journey. Often we are in this so much day to day that we think we know how it all comes together. But if you can put down the systems that your customer information and your prospect information lives in and how they're getting pinged across the user journey, it always reveals new opportunities, high impact areas where you can be doing better.
I'd love to stop offering discounts, honestly. I mean, not because I don't want to reward customers in certain ways, but I think going back to previous points, a blanket 10% welcome discount is not necessarily necessary for a certain customer. I think a lot of customers expect it at this point, but we started using something called Black Crow AI last year to try and, at least like in certain instances, determine if it's a better reason to offer a discount or not. So sort of replacing more discounts, especially on like replenishment flow emails, things like that, with more loyalty and membership perks and other ways that we can not reduce the value of the sold goods, because we never want to obviously overdo that and become considered a discount brand. Also, as we continue to scale into retail, it's I don't want to continuously undercut retailers. Eventually they're going to notice things like that, and obviously I want to keep my entire ecosystem happy. So,
Molly, just want to confirm: stop or start?
Do you know what? We've done half start and we'll do half stop.
I see.
Everyone can have a bit of everything.
I mean, personally, I would like to drink more non-alcoholic beers, but if we're talking, not alcoholic drinks, but if we're talking about retentions, I mean, we work for brands. We are agency. We provide service, and the customer always right, or at the end of the day, we do what they ask us to do. We send all campaigns, not all campaigns, but majority campaigns based on engagement, like 30 days engaged, 60 days engaged, or whatever the number of engaged. I would love to stop that strategy and focus more on advanced segmentation, engagement, plus some segmentation of what did they purchase before, what they like, what information do we have. We need more resources, of course, for that. The simple way to send it to engaged. But if you ask me, in perfect world, I would like to stop doing that and do the advanced one.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.